To be down in the dumps means to be in a bad mood. Down in the dumps. But it's a good idea sometimes to start a letter with something like that because it shows your friendly attitude to a person. So try to give me a synonym. How would you start a letter expressing the same idea? I'm hopeful that you are not down in the dumps.
I hope this day finds you well.
Okay, or I'm hopeful that my letter will find you safe and sound, in good health. So you have to find something formal. Does that mean that you could never ever use any idioms in formal business correspondence? Guys?
I don't think so. I mean,
So
it's
what do you
okay.
think?
I think it is okay to use idioms sometimes.
You could use idioms. It depends. It depends.
I mean,
what
it should be
Depends,
prohibited.
but you ask about the rule.
Maybe if you reply to a letter where a person produced some, maybe, then you know that he will also find it convenient that you also use that medium.
So this is one of the rules. Whenever you write yourself, whenever you break the ice with potential clients, you try to be very much polite, but at the same time formal, and not to use any idioms, especially some formals that are very, very much informal, like this down in the dumps. But once you reply to somebody, when it is not your first correspondence with a person, in that case, undoubtedly you can, because you should judge the style of that very person. In terms of formatting, in terms of the vocabulary he uses, you play by his rules, especially if he or she is the native speaker. So in terms of vocabulary, we have discussed no phrasal verbs, no idioms, or very formal idioms. Then there is one more moment. What is recommended in business correspondence is that you have to use, you could find it in the presentation as one of the points, you have to use Latin and Greek-based words. These are more complicated words. Where is that? Here it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, point 5. And I have given you a couple of examples. For instance, if I give you the word letter writing and correspondence, what is your first feeling? What is more formal?
Correspondence.
Correspondence. Something that is shorter on the one hand, but at the same time, it reflects the idea. Then, antagonist. What is the informal for antagonist? Enemy, it's good point. So enemy is something that is simple, something that you learned from school. In business, they prefer to use words of Latin or Greek origin. So whenever there is some foreign words like French-based words, because as you know, the bulk of the words in French are from Latin, you're supposed to use them in formal style. That doesn't mean that you don't use them in informal style, but very seldom, maybe only 20% of the vocabulary. Some other points. One that I would love to draw your attention to, this is syntax. And point number 2, no contractions. Even the best writers of letters sometimes make a mistake here. Maybe because they're in a hurry, maybe because they are sort of negligent. And sometimes they could write everything in a perfect way, and then there is this word can't, and it messes things. No, you're not supposed to use this can't. So a quick question of mine, what is a contraction? How do you understand that? Apostrophe, this is something on the top, let us say. But what is inside? How do you define this contraction?
A shortened form.
Of what?
Of a phrase.
Of a phrase? Okay. What shall we take? UN. Is it a contraction? United Nations. UNICEF. So probably not. What is a contraction? A contraction is a shortening of modal verbs. That is why I have chosen can't for you, mustn't, hadn't. These are modal verbs, and these are shortenings of auxiliaries. What are the auxiliaries?
Helping verbs to indicate tense, time tense.
Right you are, that's true. Could you please give me a couple of examples apart from don't? To be is not quite a contraction. Give me the form to indicate the tense.
Is not, ain't.
Isn't, aren't, then, won't, shan't. These are the contractions. So please be mindful of them. If you use them, it means that the style is informal or semi-formal. Informal style, they're not allowed. Question?
My question is, we're now talking about formal style, and I guess it mostly applies to those departments in our organizations who speak to clients, like to new clients, where it's really formal setting. However, I represent like project groups where we speak to clients who we communicate to on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume we should not follow all of these things there because, I know for example, a few guys, clients very well, and I can't see why I wouldn't use contraction, for example. So I guess the question, what is the context of this? This is, I guess, mostly for when we speak to some very big organizations or new clients where we don't know each other yet, and it's not applicable to us, I guess.
Valid point. First, I didn't say that all of you have to follow it. If you were attentive, what I said is that you have to use it in formal letter writing. In your case, right at the moment we are talking about the customer that you are only trying to start communication with, for instance, the person who you do not know very well, or with whom the relation is a long-distance relation, let us say. Whenever we talk about you, for instance, when this is not the first time when you correspond with the person, the third, the fifth time, when the relationship is very friendly, because sometimes these people, let us say Americans, they could visit you and they know you personally. In that case, undoubtedly, there is no need for you to follow this formal style. The style that you follow is semi-formal or informal. And in that case, it is allowed for you to use contractions. No one minds that. Just on the case, you should always understand that whenever you write a letter, I told you about the target audience. You have to be mindful of that factor. And when you know what the target audience is, you understand what the relationship is between you and between those people. And once you have realized that, then it is up to you to decide whether the style is formal or informal. So it seems to me that you understand this. It's like when you go to a party, you could wear something informal, casual. When you come to the reception with the president, I believe that you will go for a smoking, won't you?
Well, I'd say probably to me, I wouldn't want this whole lecture to be dedicated to formal writing because I very rarely use it. I would much more appreciate something
Informal.
about, like some tips on more informal writing rather than how to write really formal letters.
Okay, so I will make the points in such a way. Whenever we talk about the formal style, here you could see the presentation for a formal things. In informal, you use exactly the opposite. What does it mean? You go for phrasal verbs, you go for idioms, you go for contractions all the time. Can't, mustn't, I'm not, instead instead of I'm not, what will you write?
I'm
What will you write?
not.
Mm-hmm. Because this one, it will sound very strange. Like for formal, just on the contrary, use contraction. So it in reverse. For those people who write formal letters, you have to follow this. For those who write informal, you have to use exactly the opposite. Use simpler words instead of correspondence. You use letter writing, for instance. Something a little bit more primitive that is understandable to everybody. Then, my point was about emoticons. Undoubtedly, in a formal letter, you're not supposed to use any smileys, any emoticons. In informal letter writing, you're all for them.
It's also stupid to use emoticons in informal even.
In informal,
Yeah, sure.
you use them, don't you?
No.
So you don't use, but you are allowed to. Because, guys, I don't know whether you are this type of people or whether you try to confuse me. The thing is that it depends what your audience is. Because I don't know about your relationship with your clients. I told you before that you could write to your friends, you could write to your relatives, and in that case, emoticons are possible. Right at the moment, I'm talking not by the books, I'm talking by my personal example. And whenever I correspond with some people, let us say with Americans who I have been in contact for a couple of years, I could easily allow myself to write some sort of smiley. And it is okay, no one forbids that, because this is our relationship. So you decide for yourself. I'm telling you what is possible, but you by yourself, you are the bias. Then, the tone. Whenever we talk about the tone is always friendly and polite. But in informal conversation, it should be neutral. What does it mean? It means that there shouldn't be, every time there shouldn't be a question mark that is followed by an exclamatory mark. Because it sounds really bad. It's a bad mark. You could go, even in the informal style, you're not supposed to use that. There must be neutrality, there must be some distance between you. Because after all, you're not friends, you are in business. Long, complex and compound sentences. This is something that you're always welcome to use in formal letter writing. How do you understand this part of the lecture? Anyone?
We need to try to make small sentence, which will carry
Small?
one basic idea, and not too many.
You're talking about the opposite of this.
True. You're talking about the opposite. If it is in formal style, then the sentences should be short. The shorter the better. Like the subject, which is followed by the predicate and then by the object. The simplest example, I like you. So this is approximately the structure of an informal letter. When you talk about formal letters, there should be sentences which are longer, up to 10 words. So there should be, let us say, the principal part, two principal parts. Or there could be a principal part which is followed by a subordinate part. For instance, I like this guy, that is why I want to be in business with him. Or I like this guy and I want to be in business with him. So there will be two subjects and two predicates here. You should go for longer structures in formal correspondence. In informal, shorter structures. Is that clear? I think so. And the last one, clear paragraphing. It is something that should be used that goes for both formal and informal style. What does it mean and what for do we need that? Who will help me?
Well, I guess it means,
This part is more active.
yeah, the right wing and the left wing.
Soon they will rock, I'm sure. So continue, please.
I guess here it means that if an email consists of several major points or thoughts, they need to be separated into paragraphs.
Paragraphs, good.
So they used to kind of break down your long email into chunks that are easier to understand and which logically is like
Easier to
separated.
perceive or read, yeah. To conceal the information.
Yes, all of you are right. And some people somehow in formal writing you understand that it's important. While in formal writing you think that you could write whatever you want to, people will understand you. But at the same time, when there are some chunks, it is much easier for people to perceive, to grasp the information. So it's a good idea to go for that. Please quickly go through this slide and tell me if there are any questions, if there is some misconcept that I have generated in your mind. Let me know, otherwise we proceed.
How would you express high level of being not content of something? So you want to somehow influence the situation. Say you've been very neutral in 2-3 emails, and then you see that people don't get it. So how would you proceed with a neutral tone in order to kind of raise the level of expression?
Good question. What I could say here, undoubtedly you're not supposed to use, even if it is informal, you're not supposed to use really harsh words, vulgar words. The first that unfortunately came to my mind is that you can't use the word S-C-R-E-U-U or F-U-C-K-U. Of course you can't use that. You have to be polite, but you have the meaning, whatever you write, it will be understandable to people. For instance, if I'm dissatisfied with something, I will say, we have been in business for a couple of months, everything was fine in our relationship, but unfortunately, something has happened right at the moment, which doesn't keep me very much satisfied. And I'm afraid that you won't be so nice if you won't kindly start cooperating with me, then my company or I, on behalf of the company, will have to do this and that. It's not about the thread, it's about the choice of the words. It's about, here I'm talking about your English, how good your English is. That's my point.
Alright, okay, thank you.
Did you expect any other answer?
That's fine, it's just a typical question, I guess.
Okay, let it be so, failed. Then, the next part, going further. That might be exciting for you. There are 3 of them. Full block, modified block, and semi-block or indented. Have you ever heard about them? Have you ever come across them? Guys? This is the time for you to act.
Can you give us an example because it doesn't ring a bell? Really.
Okay, maybe this time there won't be. It's about the way the letter looks like. Because the first thing that we pay attention to is appearances, even if they're deceptive. So it is connected with the look of the letter, with the outlook. Sure.
I guess I really never, ever wrote a letter like this. And I don't think, to me, it is going to be helpful. So, just to give you again the context, we are mostly communicating via email and mostly communicate to the clients we already know and we have a relation already, we have a contract, so we don't need to kind of approach a new client or something.
Well,
whereas this,
sales.
yeah, for sales people, I'm talking about
Yourself.
Silence or I mean, to me, this is not going to be really helpful, I guess, at this stage of my career.
Could I try to satisfy the salespeople if there are any here and if they have any interest? Are there any? Guys, I think that you have to be a little bit helpful. You too?
We have very interesting listeners.
Okay, good. So you see, you have to be a little bit more patient because they were listening about informal style.
I'm not trying to,
Sabotage.
I'm trying to make sure that we get maximum of, helpful information in terms of this lecture. So if it's helpful, if this is helpful,
I guess what Andrei wants to say is that he just expects a bit less of theory, a bit more practical tips.
no, it's fine, but this doesn't apply to me. It would be
Come
fine.
on,
if
you
I-
write
Okay,
some emails
so
like that.
I will
every
say
day.
quickly. Whenever we talk about this first block style, it is mainly used in American English. Whenever you make a printout, whenever you write, let us say, some sort of letter, it's about the fact that all the parts of the information, they go, I will show you. Seems to me that there is no slide over here, it doesn't show. So there was one page of mine which is yellow, closer to the end of the presentation. And you will see the loops. So here it goes. Full block style. It means that all the parts of a letter, they are left aligned. They go to the left. And this is something that Americans prefer. Whenever you write a letter to them, it is usually in this style. While in British English, whenever you correspond with the United Kingdom, as well as those who have it, as well as with those countries that are part of the British Commonwealth, they stick to the modified block style. Do you notice any differences between the two? There are the differences that some parts of the letter that we will mention, maybe it will be more of a tip for you, that they are a little bit more right aligned or a little bit more centered, which is the sender's address, the date, as well as the complementary clause and the signature block. They are a little bit centered. And this style, it is hardly ever used anywhere, but at the same time there are some companies that are dinosaurs that prefer to use it, which is semi-block style. It's almost like modified block style, but the difference is that the paragraphs are indented. What maybe it will be useful for you, for one of the most, I would say, cooperative and active gentlemen in the group, is that right at the moment the tendency is not to have indents. Whenever you write an email, what is an indent? It's when you have
Email.
one tab.
I've never inserted indents in my emails as far as I...
Well, we
Which is very
usually just rely on plain text. Email and email.
Yeah,
It's
because-
just we tend to avoid any formatting because it can be a bit screwed up by whatever is showing in email. So just in real life, we just tend to write emails as a plain text and rely on whatever Gmail client provides. There's no indents as far as I remember. I mean, or there's no any rich text formatting, so we just usually, proceed as.
By default.
Yeah.
And these days you can like use lots of mobile devices, and you never know how it will look like on mobile devices.
Yes.
It makes sense to send it as plain as possible.
So what you're doing, either by default or unconsciously, is very good. Keep on doing that and you will be happy. Then, we will skip some slides and maybe here you will be more excited. What do you think? Is it a good idea to discuss a structure of a good letter? Whether it's formal or informal, which components it consists of? Shall we?
I think that,
You think again.
yeah.
Stop thinking.
Well, I guess it makes sense to run through and have a brief understanding, and if someone has questions or if someone doesn't understand the generic structure, someone
Okay,
can ask questions.
let us go through it. You will help me because I see that you're very much impatient.
I can just only add that from my experience, programmers who do not have a lot of experience writing, they're really bad at structures because they write letter hi, the build is ready, and that's all.
Build is failed, sorry.
I see. But my job, guys, here, I'm sorry, of course I have
No,
to
it's
take the
fine.
time, but at the same time I have to explain it to you. And you decide for yourselves whether you're interested or not, because I can't be a person, there can't be one person running a show, okay? So here is the structure. Usually, you could maybe miss it, just a couple of points. Return address. If you write a letter, there must be a return address. In emailing, undoubtedly you understand that this is two-line then. This is from line. This is information from you, something@yahoo.com. Then there must be a date. In a letter, it is better to use a date. In our case, in emails, there is no need to use a date because automatically it is used. Then we have the inside address. The inside address is the receiver's address, which is two-line. You place it here. Now my question, I will break the structure a little bit. Tell me please, what if I want to send one and the same email to a number of recipients? What do I have to use then?
Spam bot.
No, seriously? Which line could I use so as to send my letter to a number of recipients automatically without forwarding the letter?
In the email, you can use the CC.
Why are you calling it CC? Don't you think that it sounds funny?
Carbon copy.
Carbon copy, okay, so we will go further. Don't call it CC because CC is a womanly man or gayish man. So it's better not to use CC but go for double C. Now carbon copy. Just to show that I'm here, not for nothing, I will tell you that carbon copy, because you claim to be, and which is very good, I'm very much respectful of that, you claim to be very much educated and very much in the picture. It's good. But at the same time, you never said that, but you produce such an impression which is good. Carbon copy, what is carbon? It's not carbon dioxide, it's a different thing.
This is the копировальная бумага, which
True, but right at the moment we practically do not use it. That is why in modern English they say that this deciphering of this double C is not by carbon copy, but courtesy copy. That's what double C stands for, courtesy copy. Is the meaning of courtesy clear to you? Courtesy is like politeness, but it's the highest degree of politeness. So double C stands for courtesy copy. You're right, so you could go for double C and then you type the addresses of those people who will get the same letter. Now even a simpler question to some of you. If I want to send this letter, but I don't want some other recipients to know that I'm sending the letter to a number of people, which copy do I use?
Blind.
Blind carbon copy, or blind courtesy copy, which is BCC. And what about a letter? Those people who write letters. In emails, it's quite clear. It is to the top of the page. But if I write a real letter, where do I have to place this information if I really do?
You mean handwritten?
I have written, let us say typed letter. I have have typed a letter here, I have printed it out. Here is my letter. I'm writing to your company, sharing the presentation with you, general letter layouts, oblique styles, and I want to send it, this is my letter, let us say, yours sincerely, my signature, and now I want to send it to each and every of you. There must be a special line for this. Where do I place that?
You just can use Excel list and merge function in your Word.
In letter, in a typical formal letter, which is used in high profound correspondence, all those, once you finish the letter, after the signature block, this is the line where you could place enclosures, postscripts, where you could place this carbon copies and blind carbon copies. So this is the very end of your letter, where you place these copies. So in email, it is at the very top. In letter writing, you will have this presentation, so those who are interested, you will see. It's the very last line of yours. There you place that. We have written our letter. You know who you are sending to who you are sending, all the possible recipients. What is the next step in an email? Send. But it's going to be empty.
There is no content, man.
We need to fill it in with some contents, right you are? So, there was a variant, dear whoever.
Do we have the subject, by the way?
So, that's a good question. Do we have a subject or do we not?
Better to have.
I mean, we should. but I
We
guess-
definitely should have a subject, especially an email. What for? To draw the attention to the person, what you're writing about, because I might have received thousands of letters, and I should understand that yours is the most important. Where do we have the subject line in emails?
No.
There is special.
Special field for that.
Special field. So it is located at the top, you're right. 2,
Email for that.
then there is subject, which could stand for reference, for instance. You place it here, and then from. What about the letter? Those people who maybe, some of you, are there any of you who type the letters I'm talking about?
Subject line is not before from line. Subject line is the last from the whole list. And the only line which stays after subject line is a line with attachments.
With attachments. Now you're talking about the email, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's what we are talking about. And what about the letter? If, for instance, I print out the letter and deliver to you it in an envelope, is there any people who do that?
Paper.
No one?
No one.
Okay, no one. So we skip it.
Keep the same.
Agreed. We have skipped that. So we have finished with the top part. We have mentioned the subject line. You have written it here. Then, how do you address people who you're writing to?
But again, it depends on the audience.
But there is a special structure. You could change it a little bit. But there is a way. What do they do in America?
Communication. But
Just-
there is like a greeting block.
True. So that's what I wanted to hear from you. We call it the salutation or the greetings. It must be there. Yes, point 3. Salutation or greetings. That's what they use in America. In America, they are quite informal. That is why they usually start with hello or hi. Sometimes they could mention your name. By the way, let us say, hello, Dave. What is the punctuation that you are going to use?
Comma after name.
Comma after name. Like that. In American English.
As far as I have heard, and we are mostly working with UK now.
Americans. UK.
With UK, but
Good.
as far as I know, in US, it's preferable to use the semicolon after the.
Semicolon looks like this. If you're talking about 2 dots, this is colon.
Colon, okay, yeah. The colon after that, which is
True.
better version for America.
That's true. This is one of the basic differences that you must be interested in. The UK versus the United States of America. In the United States of America, they start in an informal way. Let us say, hello, Dave. And after that, they prefer to use colon, 2 dots. It's like a must. They won't use a comma, they won't use exclamatory mark, they will go for this colon. And it is considered to be good. While in the UK, they are going for comma. But in the UK, there is one more option. You could use open punctuation, which means that it's either comma or nothing at all. Hello, Dave. It might sound strange for us, for Russian speakers, because we usually use something. They could not use that. It's for semi-formal or informal style, I would tell you, in the UK, because in the UK, they prefer to use something instead of hi or hello, not to specify the part of the day. Which courtesy title do they usually use? If I don't know the person, for instance, I'm writing to some person, how could I call him Dave? So please go in for more details. I want to address a man who I don't know, who I have never met before in my life.
Why would you do that?
Why would I do that? Because it is necessary for me to sign a contract with him. I have to sell something.
But you need to know.
Okay,
his last name.
then the sales guy needs to answer this question, not us who know who we talk to.
Okay, so I will try to answer.
Dear Mr. Smith.
Dear. You start with dear, which is a very nice way how to begin the conversation. After dear, you have the so-called courtesy title. This is the title that usually shows either your position, mainly this is academic title like doctor or professor, if you have this academic degree, or your marital status. Which marital statuses do we know? Mr., Miss, who else? Mrs.
Mrs. was also
What about Mr.? Is there a difference?
With Mr., when we talk about Mr., there is no difference, whether he is single, whether he is married. Miss, is she single or married?
Single.
You're right, discrimination, and we have been suffering for ages. Mrs., married. And what if you don't know my marital status because the reel doesn't say anything, or you don't want to specify my marital status because it could be insulting for me in business? Like you're calling me, for instance, Mrs. because you know that I'm 45 and you believe that I'm already married, but I'm not. I'm not even thinking about that. How would you address me?
Miss.
Miss?
Yes.
Yes.
Then it is also humiliating for me. I was divorced many times and now I'm unofficially married. Use something neutral.
Now they face Miss. Just dear.
Dear. So D is something that
Hi
you should
there.
use.
Hi there.
What's up? You could use Miss. Listen, it is pronounced as Miss, and the shortening is like that, MS. So this is the courtesy title that is used for women whose marital status you don't know, either they are married or single, or you don't really care. You show that what I care about is business, not the husband you have or you don't have. And after these very things, what do you have to mention? Surname or last name, right you are, like dear Mr. Brown. Once again, to see how good your short-term memory is. If it is British English and you have written, dear Mr. Brown, which punctuation mark are you likely to use?
In Britain?
In British English.
Comma.
Comma or
Information.
open punctuation, which means nothing at all. Either comma or nothing at all. But right at the moment, the tendency is to use this comma after last name. Okay. What about American English? If you start in such a pompous way, dear Mr. Brown, which punctuation do we use? Colon, right you are, double dots. So we have done this. Salutation is done. What is the next part in our email?
You want to read number 4, I guess.
True. And what is number 4? Body of a letter. Let us talk about this. What does it mean, a body of a letter? Guys?
What do you want to ask?
Once again, please.
The main content.
The main contents of your letter. Why did I call it a body? I can't say that this is one paragraph. This is a combination of paragraphs. So you must remember that each and every letter, no matter whether this is formal business or informal, it should be clear, concise, to the point. No beating about the bush. So there is the first paragraph. I will call it opening paragraph. What do we usually mention in this opening paragraph?
Short description
Of what?
of the topic.
of a topic, or I will call it in my way, purpose of writing, why you're writing. I'm writing to ask a question, this and that. I'm writing to invite you here and there. So for me, it is purpose of writing. Tell me please, guys, everybody, is it going to be a very long paragraph of 20, 30 sentences?
I don't know, couple maybe, 2 or 3.
2 or 3, so let us say 3 or 4. 4 is maximum. It shouldn't be really big, because here this is the introduction, why you're writing, who the hell you are, and that's it. Then the continuation, the second paragraph, the third paragraph, etc. What do you have in the second paragraph, in the third paragraph?
Explaining in details.
True. Here you have to extend on the points that you have mentioned here. So if you have said that you're inviting somebody, so here you mention the venue, the time, and if, for instance, whether the person is coming or not coming. Good. What about the final paragraph? It could be paragraph 3 or paragraph 4.
Positive.
Look, we are talking only about body of the
I
letter.
read he never wrote a postscript in his life, but I don't know why.
Maybe
He's trying to be smart.
He's not trying, he is, so it's very simple for him to act.
maybe his expectation on his action. Maybe
What is the last one? The last one is probably where you
I look forward.
maybe something
Wait,
say
say
bye.
So I would say, in my way, gentlemen, please, and ladies, do not judge me too much. I would call it encouraging further contact. When you want to get some feedback, when you want to get some response from people. So this is the final paragraph of our body, encouraging further contact. So you have a feedback, or whatever you expect to get from those people. So we have finished with the body of the letter. I look forward to hearing from you, blah, blah, blah. You have done this. What is the next component of a letter?
What about the phrase in the beginning, like, how are you doing, or like, hope this email finds you well?
This is the first paragraph without any doubt. I don't think that it's a good idea to place it
No, I mean, it looks like we skipped that.
I don't think that we have skipped it because it might go in the opening paragraph. Hope this letter finds you good. I'm writing to you, blah, blah, blah. So I was thinking that it is going to be in the first paragraph, in the opening one. Have we finished, or do you have any comments to make?
Well, I usually in the end I also
Because
say,
this is not the end of the letter. This is the
something
point.
like best regards Andrei or something like that.
Very good, very nice. Best regards, kind regards, yours truly and others. Let us try to generalize what it is. Because he and he, they are different. But how do I specify them? Both of them for me are men. And this is a lady to the left. So try to generalize. What is that? Best regards, yours sincerely.
Like прощание. Goodbye.
Complimentary close. We call it complimentary close. And the examples were given to you. Right at the moment, I would like to discuss some differences. And it seems to me that this is the practical tip you were asking for. Yours sincerely.
Never use it.
It's up to me to decide whether to use it or not.
No, I'm saying I never use it.
Okay, point taken. Yours faithfully.
Never.
Guys, I respect all of you a lot, but if you don't use it, that doesn't mean that it's right, does it? I don't follow a diet. I usually eat junk food, but I think it's bad.
Just don't take
No,
it seriously.
I'm trying to add value to this lecture, first of all.
Thank you very much for your cooperation and collaboration. Could you be my assistant?
Next time,
Sure.
But no sharing of profit, please. I'm taking everything to myself.
I can volunteer, no problem.
He's extremely expensive, mention that.
But he has agreed,
No.
have you heard? He has said he's doing it for free.
I'm volunteering. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Volunteer. So yours truly, regards, different types of regards. It could be kind regards, best wishes, etc. So let us discuss all these things. In American English, what do they usually go for? They usually go for truly. Yours truly, truly yours. This is something that they like very much, no matter whether this is Dear Mr. Brown or Hello Dave. This is something that Americans prefer. So those people who are still interested, you could note it down for yourselves. Americans go for truly. And even not yours truly, but truly yours. Yes, Mr. Volunteer?
Question. How formal is yours truly? To me,
Yours truly.
it's a,
I would say,
I'd say it's informal side, right?
if it is on the formal side, then what is on the formal side?
On the formal side.
Formal,
Right.
it's on the formal side.
Mhm.
You are right. When you want to use something informal with Americans, in that case it could be regards, best wishes, best regards, kind regards, different adjectives, good adjectives that you could add here. Kind, best, regards. Then of course if it is very much informal you could use even XOXO, which stands for kisses and hugs. So this is the biggest degree of informality.
That's too informal.
You have been teasing me, so I just went for you. Now, getting back to the story, getting back to British English. In British English, they really go for yours sincerely and yours faithfully. And if somebody tells me it's not true, please don't believe that person. He's trying to sabotage, as somebody said. But they make a choice between yours sincerely and yours faithfully.
It's also a formal thing. Right?
Formal. It's formal. Best, once again, then,
For sales
for
guys.
informal.
Sales guys.
For informal things, you use kind regards, best wishes. Okay, this is informal for both the variants, British English, American English. When it is formal, in that case, you go for yours sincerely and yours faithfully. My question right at the moment, mainly to sales guys and to the rest, to use your brains. How do you make the choice between the two? Is it like a brunette and a blonde?
Face of the moon.
Face of the moon sometimes if you're Mr. Malaha. But if you're not, what we do, you pay attention. This block is the complementary clause. And there is direct connection between the complementary clause and between the salutation. So if in our salutation you have used something like dear Mr. let us be Bright, dear Mr. Bright, you have to use yours sincerely. Why? How I usually tell people how to remember, because Bright is the last name, this is the surname of the person, it starts with S, and in that case the equivalent to this is yours sincerely. Whenever you do not know, whenever you do not have the last name of the person, because sometimes you write to people but you don't know the last name, and you write dear sir or madam, dear Mr. or Mrs. In that very case, you go for yours faithfully. Is that clear? Remembered? Okay, good. So yours sincerely goes for this, when you know the last name of the person. One more point that I would like to draw your attention, extra attention to, is the connection between the two is not only in the choice of the complementary clause, but also in punctuation. There should be 100% synchronization, which means if in complementary clause, if in this opening remark, in salutation, you go for open punctuation, like in British English, in that case, open punctuation should be here as well. Synchronization. If you go for comma in British English, in this salutation, then in the complementary clause there should also be comma. Getting back to American English. In American English you have colon, don't you?
Yeah.
So the question is, what do we have here? Do we have a colon as well? Masters of writing?
Probably not.
Unlikely.
Unlikely. So what is the probability is minimum. So give me another option. Dot is quite a good idea, but the thing is that this is not the end of our letter.
Why not? Why not?
Why not finish early? You're right, but we still have 30 minutes. So we have comma. In American English, we have colon in our salutation, but in our complementary clause, we have a comma. It's a must. If you forget the comma, then this is not a very good style. So please be mindful of those things. In British English, we have total synchronization. If it is open punctuation, it is open in both the components. If it is commas, then both the commas. In American English, colon at the beginning and closer to the end, we have a comma. Clear? Good. Now the next point of our lecture. This is, but we know buts.
I ask a question?
Sure.
Thanks. What is the difference between regards and best regards, for example? And is it okay to use thanks instead of regards? So these are not so formal clauses. What's the difference between those?
Closing remarks. The most formal closing remarks are yours sincerely, yours faithfully, and yours truly. If you go for something less formal, let us say informal or semi-formal, this is everything that is connected with these regards. If you want to make it softer, let us say, a little bit less informal, then you add the words kind regards, best regards, warm regards, warmest regards. It is still more informal. Whenever you translate it into Russian, it sounds in the same way. There is no difference. But for foreigners, it's a reaction that warmest regards is softer, it's like closer contact between you two than just regards. Thanking is very good. Many Americans usually finish the letter by thanks instead of using any regards. And sometimes in America, they could even place a dot after thanks. It's also okay, but it's informal. It's really kind of informal.
Okay, and just regards, is it informal or how safe are you if you just close the letter with regards and
I would say it's semi-formal. It's semi-formal. I can't say that it's informal and I can't say that it's formal. I would say that this is semi-formal if you finish with regards.
But it's not rude or anything, right?
No way that it is rude. All these expressions are good. What could be rude? Not rude, but at the same time strange if you write XOXO, many kisses, all these hugs. This is inappropriate. When we talk about regards, it is no way rude. It is translated into Russian as с уважением. So it's very good if you use regards. If you yourself want to make it a little bit more informal, because you say that you usually go for shortenings like can't, I'm not, etc., in that case, you could shorten it to this, to 4 letters, regards. Have you seen that? It makes it, this is exactly the same. It makes it a little bit less informal, but it's really polite, it's really good. If somebody gets it, nobody will think that you're flirty.
We never reached that level of informalness, no. We are not too formal and not too informal, so we are somewhere in between.
That is why regards, you could use regards very much. I could tell you, the thing is that sometimes you do not quite understand one point. Your sphere, I'm not so much familiar with your sphere because you're from programming, from sales sphere. In my business, for instance, in the sphere where I belong, we usually use very polite language like warmest regards, kind regards. We use something that is a little bit old-fashioned and sophisticated because this is the language of diplomacy. And it's good for us, no one laughs. So you have to decide what the relationship between you and between your contact. That's my story. Have we finished here? We have to... Yes, I can.
Getting back to the greetings part, you were mentioning sir and madam as well. Do they work good the same for UK and US?
Thank you. Good, you're helping me a lot. What if, let us say, I don't really know, is it the end of the question?
Yeah.
What if I do not know, for instance, who the person is, who I'm writing to, because sometimes it really happens. Or it could happen because it's live. So how could I start my letter? Dear plus sir or madam. I don't really know whether this is a man or whether this is a woman. Or I know that, let us say, it's Riley, but I don't know the gender. It could be both man or woman. So you use sir or madam through oblique, or you use it through O. There is no difference. After that, you place a comma in British English. This is what the British usually use. What do Americans use instead of this? They don't use dear gentlemen. They use just gentlemen. But okay. Dear sirs versus gentlemen. Let it be like this. So the British, they use dear sir or madam like this, after then colon. Americans could also use dear sir or madam. Americans sometimes make it simpler and they could write dear Mr., dear Miss. let us say. That's what Americans could say. This is when you address an individual, a man or a woman. Sometimes I could write to a number of people, let us say, to a number of men, like the representatives of the company. How do I have to address them then? In British English, they go for dear sirs, followed by a comma. In American English, they use gentlemen, followed by a colon. So this is when you address some business, and the owners of the business, 2 plus more people. Then you write gentlemen, American English, or dear sirs in British English. When they say individuals, then dear sir or madam. Some other questions about the greetings, complimentary clause again? Shall we proceed? When we talk about this, even in email, even if it is not a letter, you must remember that there must be some spaces. So you should skip lines. You should skip at least one line between paragraphs so that you see that this is a chunk. The same is about this complementary clause. You have finished the letter, you have encouraged for the contact. I look forward to hearing from you in due course at your earliest convenience. Then you skip a line, you place this complementary clause. After the complementary clause, the next part, as we have said, is the signature block. Let us please discuss the components of this signature block.
Name, at least.
Name.
Name,
Okay.
sorry.
Good. So there is the name there. Anything else that you mentioned?
Contacts.
Contact information. In emails you do. You might mention it here, but before, after the name, let us say below the name, is there anything else that you could mention? Andrei, for instance. Who? Doctor, good. You could say doctor, programmer, developer, what is that? Position, right you are. Position. So once again, for Mr. Andrew, I believe, who is the volunteer, if you represent yourself, if you introduce yourself as Andrei, okay, it could be Andrei. But sometimes it could be your last name. It could be Mr. with your courtesy title, and then Mr. your last name. With name only Andrei. Then you mention your position. Anything else? Company. Guys, you please help me. You tell me what you write in those letters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In our context, usually, if we're talking about email, there is a template. There is a company signature template where you don't need to write anything else. You just write thanks Andrei, and all the remaining information is already there. It's my phone, it's our address, and all this other things.
So this is the information on your company. The information on your company, contact, which includes the name of the company. Sometimes it could be the department that you belong to, like accountants department, programmers department, whatever department you have. Then there is the address of this very company. I will write it simply, address. And then there must be some contact information. You call it template. There is one more word that you could use, which is like in letter writing. This is letterhead. So everything is typed for you here. But when you have written, let us say, thanks and this Andrei, is there any signature there?
In a handwritten.
I don't know what we are talking about. Right at the moment, maybe about non-handwritten. Don't you ever sign?
No, never.
And what if you digital signature? Don't recall it.
This guy keeps talking about things he's never done. Have you ever signed a digital document?
So there is no signature. There is no digital signature. Then this is the typical structure. It depends on the company. It varies from company to company. Your name, your position, name of the company, name of the department, if it is mentioned there, the address of the company, and the contact information. Telephones, maybe website, whatever you mentioned there. But please do not forget to skip lines. Is it the end of our letter?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't.
No, usually in the corporate emails, in the very, very, very bottom, there is a
Take care of the trees.
take care of the trees, and then under no circumstances you cannot print or disclose or something like that. But that's, again, this is corporate template that, I mean, myself, I don't type it in every letter. It's just there, I know it's there.
Okay, so we will forget about that. Let us talk about some other components that must be present in your letter or in your email, because in our case it's only email. What if I want to add some information, some charts, some diagrams to my letter? What is that?
Attachments.
Attachments, very good. Where is the attachment line?
Below the subject.
Below.
In the email client.
We are talking only about emails, please don't tell me letters.
Well, okay, is there anyone who doesn't know where the attachment is?
So you know where the
Depends on the
attachment
mail
lies.
client, actually.
Depends what usually is.
Depends on the matter.
Now the information to those people who write letters. How do we call this? What if, for instance, I have typed a letter, I have placed it into an envelope, and the attachments are there? How do we call this additional information, additional papers in a letter? Sorry?
After the letter, like second page, something like that.
It could be second, it could be third page. If there are some statistics, for instance, some diagrams, it's like an attachment, приложение, but in a letter, it is called in a different way. It's not an attachment.
Appendix.
Not quite. It's enclosure. For letters, it is enclosure. So those guys who write letters, you should know that it is known as enclosure. And where is the position of the enclosure? The position of the enclosure is below the signature block. Once you have signed the letter, you have this enclosure line. And there you could even specify enclosure, let us say 2 pages. You could name the document. You could write 2 copies. Let us say 2 copies in 5 pages. So this is the line for those who write letters. And after that we have carbon copy if you have it, and blind carbon copy if it is a letter. What if I write a letter for those who write such letters or emails, and I want this very email to be read only by a person, let us say by the chief accountant? Which line do you need then? I want to write my letter, to format my letter in such a way that it is going to be, it will come to the accountants department, but it's only the chief accountant who has to read this letter.
Well, you need to put his name in the greetings salutation book.
And if it is, now I'm not saying it's very much confidential, but imagine, it's quite confidential. I'm the secretary, I have got this, I have gone through all the letter, and then I have understood what it is and who it is to.
Before we answer that, I can say in email you can encrypt the letter. So even if someone intercepts, they cannot read. Otherwise, except the guy who.
Are we talking about email or like paper letter now?
About both. He told us about email, you could encrypt it. What if it is a letter?
I know
You
there
should
is
put a sign on the envelope that is
I know there is such thing as in care of, which means to who like the letter is.
Okay, I will tell you what it is. You could mention it on the letter, you're right, but sometimes for some sort of safety, to double check and to make sure that this is the chief accountant who is going to read it, you have to place this very line just above the salutation. So here is the salutation, dear Andrew, let us say, and above that there's going to be a special line for the attention of. For the attention of, both in British English and in American English, it is followed by a colon, and then you write the name of that person. It could be chief accountant of some company, it could be Mr. Andrei Balbakov, for instance, or whatever the name of the person is. Then you skip a line, and below you write, dear, that very person, and the context of the text. What else could I, this in care of, there is such a thing. It is usually placed like this. It is deciphered as care of. What does it mean? Sometimes, for instance, if I have got some letter or some message, and I would like this message, let us say, I have got person A and person B. So if I want this parcel to be delivered, this message to be delivered to Mr. A, but I want to use Mr. B for this very person, I will write A care of B, which means that the letter goes to Mr. B and Mr. B gives it to Mr. A. So this is the meaning of care of. Why am I explaining it to you? Because you have mentioned these very points. Sometimes it is used, but I believe not in the emails, mainly in letters. Then, there is one more thing. When you write an email, have you ever, I don't know, maybe you're very much independent, but sometimes you have to do the thing on behalf of somebody else. And you want to specify that you write on behalf of somebody else. How would you do it? In an email or in a letter? I don't think that you will write, hello, I'm writing on behalf of my director who gave me the task.
In Outlook, we can select another email to send from. Yeah, and it will be automatically set as
Email offline is doing the job for you.
He is doing the job for you. And what about the salespeople? There is a special line which is double P, don't call it PP, double P. This is a Latin expression, a very long one, which I have shortened to per pro. It means that you are doing something on behalf of somebody else, usually on behalf of your boss. For instance, I'm the boss, I have put the signature over here, there is my information that I'm this and that, my position, and then there's going to be PP, and then double P, and then there's going to be, the name of the person who has written this letter. Let us say Mary Brown, like secretary. So this is the line that goes in the signature block, double P, which shows who you have written the letter on behalf of, for who you have written this letter. Sometimes there could be such a thing. For instance, the boss, let us say Bill Clinton. So this is Bill Clinton. Then there's going to be a oblique and then MB, but MB is going to be in lowercase. What does it mean? People, when they get such messages in the signature block, sometimes they could be confused. BC capitalized, it shows that these are the initials of the person who has signed the letter, and you could see it above in the signature block. These small letters stand for the person who has typed the letter, who has made the letter for that very person. In our case, this is Secretary Mary Brown. So this is the explanation of double P, per pro. And now questions time, please. Any things that you would love me to try to give the answers to you, to explain to you in brief right at the moment, because we still have some time.
Which time do you have?
Only 10 minutes, so you have to be very quick.
Should we keep the signature structure when we reply to the official program?
To the official. When you reply to the official email, it is better to have it all the time, because this is like the image of yours as well as the image of your company. So you'd better stick to it all the time.
Well, in my practice, and I think it may be a good practice in business email is when you initiate an email, when you start a new email, you have the whole signature, like your name and then all the corporate information, phone and so on. But when you're replying to an email, you just only have that part where it says "Best regards, Andrei," and no more. You don't include all of the phones and things.
So this is your experience, and this is the experience which is definitely respected. But right at the moment, I don't have the right to support people or to be against people. I'm saying about common practice. I'm saying about what people usually do. So my answer to your question, you could follow Andrei's opinion, but at the same time, the established practice is that you have to copy it and you have to have it all the time. Sometimes it could be even easier, because in my experience, you can't imagine how many Andreis I met in my life. And even the last name can't make much of a difference to me. But whenever you have the position of the person, the company he belongs to, as well as the contact information of his, it might be sometimes easier and it could speed up the process of you replying to that person. At least it clicks in your mind, it rings a bell, I know that this is the guy from this company, from this department, I know who he is. Otherwise you will be thinking, which Andrei, what Andrei, and then in 5 days you will miss the deal.
In my practice, I use the shortest signature when I reply to an email. But when I initiate the email, I use full signature. Yes, it depends on customers, your relationships with your customers. But I just wanted to know the basic rule.
So the basic rule in formal language, in formal correspondence, is what I'm saying. But what you are saying also holds true. That is why I wanted to draw your attention many times to the fact that you have to pay attention to the relationship between you and your client, your customer, how close you are. If you're really sort of friends and everybody understands that he's Andrew, you're Marie, and she is Jennifer, and they remember you, in that case there is no need to mention the whole of your signature. Please?
Is it polite to use priority for the email, like set it higher priority? It's possible to do in email plans.
You know, as far as I know, not from my experience, but from general standards, it's not really a very good idea. It's better to avoid that, all these priorities. Or maybe you could specify the question. Perhaps I got you wrong.
So in email plan, when you send email, you can set it as low priority or high priority to make exclamation mark here.
I see. So that if the recipient understands your letter, he realizes that this is something which is very important.
Right.
Yes, in that case, of course, it's important. It's a good idea. Because the person, each and every person who you correspond with gets lots of messages. And it's very important somehow to help that very person to understand that your letter is important. Not only because you're writing, but because of the topic. So what you could do, you could mention that this is like priority, high priority letter, or you have got the subject line for this. And in the subject line, you could specify something. You could even write something in capital letters, in uppercase, to show that this is something that is important. Like maybe urgent reply. You may do that.
I got one today.
And how urgent was that?
Well, several explanations.
It was pretty urgent.
So did it work for
in
you?
reality, yeah, it's really helpful. I mean, well, you should not overuse it, but sometimes when the situation really requires it, it helps to understand it well. You have to pay attention to this.
You have to pay attention to the fact that not all people could be really adequate. Because sometimes people think, I'm such beautiful, I'm so smart, I'm so fascinating, so all my letters are important. You as a person yourself, as the writer, you have to be responsible to understand that you are taking the time of somebody and you are taking his personal time, you could take some time off his work. That is why if it is something really important, not for you that the boss will say, oh, you're a good guy, you have done the task in 5 minutes instead of 25. But it's important for your business, for your relationship. In that case, use this top priority because people go for it. But if you overuse it, as Andrei has said, what could happen? You use it all the time. I keep getting such messages from you. I process those messages. Then I see that they are nonsense, that they could wait for a couple of days, for, let us say, for maybe a week, for a month. And then when the moment comes that there is something really urgent, I won't react. So you use it, but try to use it adequately and somehow sensibly. Now the question, the idea that came to my mind is, how much time do you usually have so as to reply to a letter, to an email?
It's a good question, by the way.
Thank you. At least I managed to do that by the end of the lecture.
I didn't know that. I think the whole lecture is quite helpful. But I mean, I guess in business practice, the good practice is to reply within 24 hours, I guess.
Good. They say 24 to 48 hours. But I would say that mainly they stick to the practice of 24 hours. Now imagine the situation. You are a PM, an extremely busy, or sales manager, you are an extremely busy person. You have tons of messages per day. I'm not talking about your personal private messages. In the job, you can't give reply, you can't process all these messages within such a short period of time, even 48 hours. What are you going to do then?
Well,
Maybe someone reply shortly that you will reply later.
Absolutely. This is the way to go. You write a short message. At least in that case, there is no need to send such a big signature block. You write hello, this and that. I'm sorry, right at the moment I'm very much busy. If you want to specify the reason or not. But once I manage, I will get back to you. If you want to, you could even, if you are sure that you will be able to get back to a person within 48 hours, 72 hours, you could specify that. Once I can, I will get back to you and we will talk. Now I can't. This is about emails. What about letters? What is the established practice? I will tell you, up to 5-7 days. That is why I recommend you to write letters, because they could wait for longer. Now, 2 more points that came to my mind, if it is about emails. What do you think about such a situation when sometimes people write, for instance, I have written a letter to a person and immediately I have got a response. Thank you very much for your letter, we will reply to you soon. What do you think about this practice? You could even use it in a setup all the time.
Automatic response?
Automatic response. Nothing to the point, just we've got your message.
Well, I usually get these from, like when I'm buying something, placing an order, like an order information, something that, in this case, it makes sense. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, I guess, in that, like, business can respond immediately.
So what they say in general practice, once again, abstractly, having nothing to do with the response of the gentleman, that is the fact that it's better not to use this practice or not to overuse it. Because just imagine, you correspond with people, you keep getting messages, and per day it could be up to, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 messages and over. And just imagine, there will be all these short messages. We have received your message, we will get back to you. You don't really care about that. What you need a real feedback. If they place the order, then let them bring some products to you, let them deliver. So it is considered to be not a very good idea to have such short messages. What about the different situation? The situation when you're on vacation, for instance. Somebody has written you a message and that very person gets an automatic response. I'm on a vacation right at the moment, I will get back to you in a week. Is it the best way to reply?
Yeah.
Which contents?
Or for a person who can help when you're
True. This is the best idea. Of course, it's nice to know that a person is not available, that he is enjoying a holiday, and this is the reason for you to be envious. But a better idea is to specify some other person who is likely to perform the functions of yours. And then there is the contact information of that very person. Or you automatically forward the message to that very person to process. This is the best idea to go for. Now,
This is something that's mostly done also automatically through the mail client.
I know that, but I don't know how advanced you are. I think that you should be kinder to me because I see you for the first time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sharing experience that I have.
The best of yours.
Hope it's useful for us.
So, one more question. For instance, if we have some mail thread, yes, and we reply in a short time, so shall we put a salutation or is a common practice just to proceed with some reply?
Very good question. Usually, there is no need for you to say 20 times, dear Mr., dear Madam per day. If you reply within a short period of time, then you could get straight to the point. If you want to, you could say something like hello, hi. You could ask how a person is doing, because especially in American English it's very polite. How are you? And no one is interested how you are doing. And then you get straight to business. There is no need to observe this formality then. If you reply immediately.
It's not rude to not include the salutation.
I mean, without hi or
Yeah, in case it's 20 messages per day, it's okay to just omit the...
You may, because there are many messages, people do understand this, and you reply immediately to that very message. It's not that you type a new one, because a person could scroll it down and could see that this is your message, this is the person who has already said hello. So it's not rude, no way.
And for instance, it's not about email, but maybe in instant messages when we have a chat, yes, and it's in half an hour, they also tend to say hi or hello. So shall we also reply with hi, hello, or is just a matter of attracting your attention and salutation back?
Thank you. It's also a very good question. I will tell you from my practice, because I believe that it really works not only in these textings, not only in these messages, but also in real life. It's better for you to do that. Because there are many foreigners, not only the Americans, the British, African Americans, what they usually do when they see you for the first or for the 20th time per day, they say, oh, hello, hi, how are you? And if you're very attentive, you will notice that sometimes they don't even listen for your reply. It happened to me many times. I'm just about to say how I am, but they already start talking about something different. So you have to do it. It's a matter of courtesy. It's like, hello, hello, and that's it. But never complain. If they ask, for instance, how are you, and you will say that everything is bad. The best answer, unfortunately, is I'm fine, even if you're awful, half dead.
Okay, but I mean, shall I always reply with hi, or I can wait until he writes his message and to reply without salutation?
Why not saying hi? You could interfere. You could say quick hi. But then, of course, it's better for you to wait, because if you're not the one who is initiating, be polite and wait what the person wants from you. So, judging by my clock, judging by my watch, it is already high time for us to finish that. I'm really hopeful, guys, that it was at least 20% useful for you, because 20% is also some sort of success for us. I'm leaving the presentation for you. For some people, you will be able to go through it once again. Maybe you will find some valuable points, because I was trying to structure it in such a way that you don't have to be way smart, you don't have to be Oxford graduate to understand what it means. It seems to me that everything is quite understandable. Return address, then double space, then date. You will be able perhaps to use it in your practice, in the job. Then there will be, today we have been recorded, there is a video, so if some people want to watch it, especially those who missed the lecture, you will be able to do that, to go for it once again. Maybe you will get 20% more of information that could also be applicable for you in practice. For me personally, it was pleasant to communicate with you. I haven't felt any pressure, any tension. Hopefully I didn't look like one. So thank you very much for entrusting me this duty to come to you today, to spend some time with you. And if you have any questions, if you want to, let us say, further our contact, to continue our communication, I'm always welcome. I'm always there for you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.